Shall I start? Okay, thank you, Ashwin. Okay, so the goal of today is to discuss basic concepts for cluster analysis. I will not be starting with the algorithm today. Algorithms I will cover next week. So let's start with cluster analysis. Can anyone tell me what is clustering? We had discussed briefly in first lecture. Can anyone tell me what is clustering? When you hear the word cluster, if you derive the meaning from English word, what could it mean? Very nice. Very good. So cluster is that if some objects or some records have similar properties or attributes or features, then we can group them together in a cluster. Okay, so any clue whether clustering is a supervised or unsupervised technique? Any idea? Okay, classification. What was classification? Was it supervised or unsupervised?
Supervised learning.
It was supervised learning, and in classification, we would categorize a record into a particular category. In clustering, we group together records based on their properties. Okay, so dividing data into meaningful, useful, or meaningful and useful clusters or groups. Meaningful means you will capture the structure of the data, how data is organized, and useful means that you might want to fulfill a purpose using those clusters. For example, in case of data summarization. So suppose you want to plot your data records and see, okay, suppose there are youngsters, there are middle-aged people, and there are elders or senior people. So if you want to summarize the data, you would want to group them into different groups by summarizing. So this, if suppose I want to create a box plot, so maybe this would be where my youngsters are. Probably this cluster would be where my middle-aged people are, and this would be where my seniors are. So this is kind of a summary of a data. So you can use clustering for summarization, where you can view the data on how it has been organized in your data set. So cluster analysis is finding groups of objects, and the objects in a group will be very similar or related to each other, and objects across different groups will be quite different from each other. Basically what they are saying is that the intra-cluster distance within a cluster, the goal is to minimize those distance, and the goal is to separate them in such a way such that the intercluster distances are maximized. So a good clustering algorithm is such that it groups the objects or clusters the object in such a way that intra-cluster distances are minimized and inter-cluster distances are maximized. Distances means difference, or how far apart or how separated they are from each other based on certain properties. So, where do we use we can use cluster analysis in understanding how conceptually there are meaningful groups of objects, and based on what features we can find that they are related or unrelated, and potential classes and study of automatically assigning the classes. See, in classification, what you were doing was that you were given a set where you had already known what their target class or what their class was. Looking at this set, we decided what are new records class could be. So looking at this information, you decided on this information. But sometimes it happens you do not have this information available. For example, I think Mukesh is doing a set, doing an experimentation where he has collected tweets. Okay, and in these tweets are not labeled as positive, negative, or neutral. So there is no sentiment analysis. In sentiment analysis, these positive, negative, or neutral tweets are not known. Only the tweets are given, but if they are positive, negative, or neutral, it's not known. Then how can we use information within these tweets to automatically assign these classes? So basically what he would be trying to do is that he will be grouping the tweets into positive, negative, and neutral. So clustering will help you define or categorize data using the inherent or underlying properties of the data set without uh, any knowledge of any info, without any knowledge of info or information that to which category they actually belong. Based on underlying properties, it is going to divide the objects and group them together. I hope this is clear. I hope this is not confusing to you. So this is basically based on the data sets only you are grouping the objects. You don't have any prior information. For example, in biology, you can group genes and proteins that have similar functionality. Then you can retrieve related documents for browsing or searching. So for example, if I want to search documents on data mining, so a classification would, what would a classification algorithm do? It would classify them as whether they were DM documents, whether they were statistics documents, or whether they were literature documents. So it would categorize them based on some documents it had already looked at. But if you are using clustering, it will, the algorithm does not know whether it's a DM document or a statistics document or a literature document. It will just look at that document and put it in a particular group. Okay, so this is a data mining, this is literature, and this is statistics. And on reading that document, there will be certain words that are specific to data mining. So okay, put this document here. Suppose this is about English literature, put it here. Suppose a document is using a lot of statistical terms, then put it here. So again, climate for finding patterns in atmosphere, high pressure or low pressure, and which have a which can impact your land climate. And in psychology and in medicine for grouping the behavior of people or how particular types of cells react. These are the various applications. Now utility for then it is used for, apart from understanding, it is used for utility. So one is summarize or reduce the size of large data sets by including only cluster prototype. So what does this mean? So you have, let's say you could form 4 clusters. Now I want to summarize the data. Okay, suppose let's take an example of BSc Honors Computer Science. When I want to know what is the stand of the class, or how the class is feeling about a particular topic, I do not talk to each one of you. I go to the CR, and basically CR is the representation of the entire class. So basically you can say that he's a prototype. He is someone, or he or she is someone who is representing a group. So he will give me a summary of what is happening inside of a class. So instead of talking to, there are 70 students in first year, and I think approximately 45 in second year, and you are 44 in third year. So instead of talking to each one of them, we talk to their respective CRs and understand what they are, what is how the class is organized, or whatever. We gather the summary. So what happens is in clustering, you cluster all the objects, you choose one of the representative objects, and by looking at its features, you can determine that all the other records in this particular cluster will be similar to the prototype or to the representative point. Is this clear? Okay. Then you can use it for compression. So you will use the cluster prototype to represent objects and use an assigned integer as a representation of different objects. Okay, has anyone studied any data compression algorithm? Anyone has studied data compression algorithms? How data compression works? Any idea how it works? So if I have, yes, okay. You are saying yes or no?
No, ma'am.
Okay, let's suppose I have an image and it is 256 cross 256, and I think you are studying that in graphics also. Image is divided into pixels, and when the image is divided into pixel, whatever is the intensity of the pixel, it is the image, that particular intensity determines the color or how the contour will be represented. So suppose I want to compress this image. Suppose all this is black. Okay, so if all this particular first row is black in this grid, so maybe the intensity here will be 0, and let's say that here this is 1, so probably the intensity here will be 1, and maybe here something lighter is flowing, so here intensity will be something between 0 and 1. So suppose I want to compress this image. I understand that you have not read compression algorithm, but logically what would you be doing? What should you do?
डेटा को कम करना मैम, कंप्रेस करके.
जैसे अब आप डेटा को जिप करते हो या टार करते हो, तो डेटा का साइज छोटा हो जाता है, तो क्या करता होगा आपको ये एल्गोरिथम? सिर्फ सोच के, अच्छा मतलब नहीं भी आता तो भी थोड़ा सोच के बताओ कि अगर आप होते तो आप कैसे करते? किसी चीज को पैक करना है छोटे साइज में, तो क्या करोगे? सपोज यू आर ट्रैवलिंग समवेयर, तो आप पूरा घर तो उठा के लेके नहीं जाते. यू पिक अप थिंग्स दैट आर ओनली रिक्वायर्ड फॉर समथिंग. हाँ जी,
पार्ट लेंगे क्या डेटा का?
क्या लेंगे? एक सेकेंड. ओके, लाइक 1 डिफॉल्ट परसेंटेज कंप्रेस कर देंगे. ओके, आप भी टाइप कर सकते हो, मुझे वो वर्ड क्लियर नहीं हो रहा आप क्या बोल रहे हो. Some part of data. Okay, so both of you are moving in the right direction. What if I do something like this, that I count the number of zeros in this grid? So these are 256 zeros. So if I say and 0 and then I write a count 256, which is saying that the first row is all zeros and 256. Then I write 0, 127, then probably 1, which is 58, and the rest of them are zeros. Suppose I write this representation, so on and so forth. So basically, if obviously there can be alternating zeros and ones, so we will find a way to represent that. So maybe suppose you have something like this 0 1 0 1, so maybe you could have represented something like this 0 1 0 1 and 50 such strings. So here what you are doing, this is simply frequency counting. This is one of the simplest ways data can be compressed. So instead of representing the entire image as it is in the forms of pixels, you just count the number of zeros and ones or the intensity values and tell their frequency and pass on this over the network or store it. And when it is uncompressed, so it will just build an image out of this. So this is uh, this is one way you are compressing. So what you are doing is you are taking a representative element 0 and you are representing and assigning an integer to these different objects for compression. So obviously there can be different clusters of data. There could be clusters of 0, clusters of 1, clusters of 0, 1, 0, 1, so on and so forth. So that is how, so that is obviously this is not the only way. There are a lot of other more complex and better ways to solve this problem. But I just wanted to give you an idea on how you can use clustering for compression. So just cluster them into groups of zeros and ones or some possible strings of 0, 1, 0, 1, and then count their frequency and store them or pass them to the network. The other thing is to find the nearest neighbors. Use cluster prototypes to compute distances. So instead of pairwise distances between all objects. So if you have clustered the data. So basically I'm saying that there is some average student in the class. Now if you have n number of objects, and basically here when you are clustering, so this n can be very large. Now to compute the intra-cluster differences, what you would do, you would compute distance between these 2 points, these 2 points, these 2 points, these 2 points. So basically n into n minus 1 distances you are going to compute between each and every point. So understand how different or what are the intra-cluster differences. Now one way to find out these differences is that, okay, there are many points here, sorry, and you have chosen one point which is lying in the center. Instead of computing all these distances, because you have chosen a representation point, compute the distances of all the objects from this point only, which will give you an overall idea of how far apart or how related the objects within the cluster are. So this is basically to understand your data before you start to process or mine it. So obviously clustering will depend on nature of data, techniques and desired result. Nature of data, we understand what properties it holds, whether it's an image or whether it's an accounting information, whether it's weather information. Techniques depend on the algorithm that you are using, and desired results. What do they mean by desired results? Any idea what is meant by desired results over here? Desired results here means the number of clusters in which you want to divide data. Suppose these were the original points and you said that my algorithm should give me 2 clusters. So this is a possible separation. Then suppose you wanted to divide your data into 4 clusters. So this is a possible separation. So you have to find different hyperplanes to uh, separate this data. Again, if you wanted 6 clusters, so this is so desired results are that how at what granular level you want to separate your data. So when to use clustering and when to use classification, if labels of or if you want to automatically label the objects or understand the structure of the data, you don't know anything about the data, then it is better to use clustering if you want to understand the data better. Classification is supervised and you already have labeled objects, and based on that labeled information you will categorize unlabeled object. And clustering is also sometimes called unsupervised classification, because again you are grouping them into categories. Okay, so clustering may be referred to as segmentation and partitioning. Partitioning means dividing them into graphs or subgraphs, and segmentation is division of data in groups. Can you give me one application of segmentation? When we were discussing the first chapter, most of you had given me that example. What is segmentation? Any idea? I remember Vibhu telling me what is segmentation, and I think Sachin also told me. Subgroup forming, okay. Okay, why would I want to form subgroup? Where you can use this segmentation? Easy to access, okay. Anything else? Okay, very nice. So the description is nice. Now tell me where you will use it. Recommendations, okay. Are arranging products, okay. Okay, fine. So basically segmentation is that, suppose let's take a very simple example. I don't know if it happened in your school, but in most of the schools it happens that there are A to F sections, and A mostly has toppers. Then so all the bright students are there. Then B has a mix of toppers and some average students. C has some average students, so on and so forth, until F, where they are below average students. So the way they teach the A section and the way they teach the F section is very different. Why? Because they are already, their concepts are probably more clear, or they are more hardworking. I can't say about it. But uh, if they already know a few concepts, so it's not difficult to tell them something more, something better, something new. So you would be making them solve, apart from NCERT book questions, you will be making them solve the IIT questions also. But for this section, you would be more focused on covering the basics. So what you have done is you have segmented the entire batch into different sections based on their requirements or based on their performance, and then you are catering to them or delivering them lectures based on their present skill set or probably present marks. Another example could be, segmenting the customer. You want to sell the products, and you want to sell the products to different segments of customers. So there is one way. Suppose that there is only one product. Suppose you want to sell toothpaste. Now toothpaste everyone uses, but how you are going to market it to children, how you are going to market it to youngsters, and how you are going to market it to middle-aged people, and how you are going to market it to seniors. So you have divided your data into 4 segments. For children, probably you would give some toy free, or I mean, so I see these advertisements where fluoride free toothpaste and you get toys and something. So children will be more attracted and they will push the parents to buy. For youngster, I think you might have seen a Ranveer Singh ad where he is motivating some youngster to I think in a close-up ad he is doing something of that sort. So that sort of an advertisement works for a youngster. For a middle-aged person, budgeting is more important. So you would probably, offer them or show them a discount or tell them that how budget friendly it is for them. So maybe, you could compare prices that, okay, iska price is, only 80 rupees and the other products in the market cost 100 rupees. So probably this person will be attracted to that kind of advertisement. For senior citizens, you would more be talking more about, protecting their gums and teeth and just keeping them strong for so that, it is usable till later stages also. So you have only one toothpaste to sell, but the kind of marketing message you are giving is different for different people. So how do you decide that? For that, you need to understand what kind of market segments you have. So generally, this can be done using clustering. So probably you would push an advertisement on TV for children, or for middle-aged people, you might send an email. For youngsters, you might want to push it on an app. And for senior citizens, maybe a WhatsApp message will also do, because probably instead of seeing Facebook or emails or TV, maybe they are reading WhatsApp more. So obviously this I'm just thinking out aloud. So you will have to study what this market segment is using, what channels they are using, and what kind of marketing messages they are interested in. And then, so this is helpful. So clustering helps in segmenting your data like this. I hope it's clear. Okay. So now types of clustering is hierarchical and partitional, exclusive and overlapping or fuzzy, and complete and partial. So hierarchical, as the name suggests, you cluster objects in the form of trees. There are graphs and then there are subgraphs. So all of them are a part of one tree only, but then you have splitted them into graphs and subgraphs. But in partitions, there are clear partitions. Okay. So partitional divides the objects into non-overlapping clusters or subsets. Hierarchical, each cluster can have subclusters, and that is nested clusters are organized as a tree. Each node is a union of subclusters. So if I'm talking about this node, it is a union of this. And I'm talking about this node, then it is a union of this node. So there is an overlap. And hierarchical cluster is a sequence of partition clustering which are clubbed together in the form of a tree. And you can obtain partition clustering by cutting the tree at that particular level. So if I have to find a partition out of this tree, so I can cut the tree at this level and I will get two partitions, or I can cut the tree at this level and I get two separate partitions. Then partitional clustering, as I've already told you, these are separate partitions, and here this is hierarchical clustering. So these are two different clusters. Then when you club them, they form one node of a tree. Then this is one cluster, P4 is another cluster. When you club them, they form another node of the tree. This is one cluster and this is another cluster. So all this club together forms the entire data set. So this is how hierarchical partitioning look like, and this is where hierarchical clustering looks like, and this is how partitional clustering looks like. Then exclusive means each object is assigned to one and only one cluster. Overlapping or non-exclusive means that objects can simultaneously belong to one group. An object may belong in between, so it is equally good. For example, when you are saying exclusive, so you are saying that somebody is an employee of a college and somebody is a student of the college. So there is exclusive clustering here. So a student can never be an employee in this particular, if we are talking about A&D college, a student can never be employee. If he has to become an employee, then he has to stop being a student. And if he has to become a student, he has to give up his employeship and come here as a student, but not both. Then overlapping or non-exclusive clusters is, for example, I am an employee of the college in Delhi University, and I go on to pursue some research-based course in the university itself. So I am equally a student as well as an employee. So there is a provision that I can go for further studies and I can pursue my studentship as well as my employeship together. So this is overlapping or non-exclusive. In fuzzy also, here they are equally good. Equally good means, this can be, you can group this person as this also and this also. In fuzzy or probabilistic clustering, to which particular cluster I belong to, you assign a number between 0 and 1. So 0 means, suppose if I am not a student, so for this cluster my value will be 0, and for this cluster my value will be 1. And suppose there are more clusters. For example, I am employee, probably I am a student, and maybe I am a somewhere I am a part-time worker also. So maybe part-time things I do off and on, so maybe with a probability 0.2. Studentship also is not taking much of my time, so 0.3, and this. So with the probability, what probably takes up more of my time, or where most of my contribution is going, or probably what properties match to other records in this. So maybe I as a student or might not really match with you, but as compared to other teachers in the college, so with that probability we assign, but we ensure that this sum is always 1. So if you want to convert it to exclusive clustering, simply assign weight as 1 and these weights are 0. So take the maximum weight and assign that to be 1. Then you have complete and partial clustering. Complete means assign every object to a cluster. So if there are n points, all n of them have been assigned to at least one cluster. Partial means that it's not necessary that all n have been assigned. And that means some objects may not belong to desirable groups. When does that happen? So if suppose I can assign n minus 3 objects to some cluster, but 3 objects are left. So when this would typically happen? कब होगा ऐसा? जनरली कब होता है ऐसा कि 3 के लिए मुझे कोई क्लस्टर ही नहीं मिला? एनी आइडिया? मैं सारे ऑब्जेक्ट्स को क्लब कर पा रही हूँ, पर 3 ऑब्जेक्ट्स को नहीं कर पा रही किसी रीजन से. वो क्या रीजन हो सकता है? देयर कैन बी एन नंबर ऑफ रीजंस, बट इज देयर एनी रीजन दैट यू कैन थिंक ऑफ? Extra property exceptions. Pooja, very nice. Sachin, yes, it could be extra property, but when you talk about exceptions, Pooja, they are basically known as outliers. So they could be outliers, that's why. So I'm not saying they will always be outliers. As Sachin said, there could be some more properties, some special properties to that. But Pooja, we generally call exceptions as outliers. So for next time onwards, you can use the word outliers. Then there are well-separated clusters, prototype-based clusters, graph-based clusters, density-based clusters, and some conceptual clusters. So well-separated means that any object in a cluster is more similar to objects within the cluster as compared to object not in this cluster. So you will pick up a threshold to put this object in this cluster or this cluster or this cluster. So you will have to decide some thresholds. It's an ideal scenario. Normally data is not like that, and it is possible only if data contains natural clusters. For example, if I want to cluster your class, it is not very easy for me to cluster because most of you are similar but yet different in a lot of ways. But if I want to cluster people in terms of age, and I have a very wide age gap from 5 to 60, these are natural clusters. There are people, so I can say 5 to 12 is children, and 13 to 19 or 20 is teens, then probably 20 to 35 is youth, and 35 to 50 is middle aged, or 35 to 60 is middle aged, and 60 plus is seniors. So these are natural clusters. So, but mostly, apart from scenarios like this, it's not generally seen that natural clusters are there in your data set. Then prototype or centered based cluster, which I said that you pick up a point which you call as a center of a cluster, and you compute the distances and put those objects in the cluster which are quite similar to this point. So these are prototype or center based clusters. So set of objects such that any object in a cluster is more closer to the prototype of that cluster as compared to the prototype of other clusters. So for continuous attributes, if you want to define prototype clustering, it's generally centroid or average or mean. So this is our next algorithm that we will be studying based on centroid. We will be computing centroids and clustering based on that difference. For categorical attribute, you will find the medioid, which is basically the median, which is the most representative point in that category. And general or prototype, generally prototype is the central point, so it is also known as center based cluster. Then in graph based objects, you represent the objects as nodes in the graph and how they are related to each other using the edges. And so a cluster will be a connected component, so you can reach every node from one another. And if you have this link also, suppose you had this link also, then every node was, and I think this link also, so every node was connected to one another. So this could be known as a clique. So a graph, in a graph based clustering scheme, you represent them as graphs with as edges and or links and nodes, and cluster is basically a connected component. So suppose you have this, so this part and this part is not connected, and this part is not connected. So this is one cluster, this is another cluster, and this is the third cluster because they are not connected. But here, because they are connected, so they are connected components. So this is cluster. And if all the nodes in the इसको हाँ, थोड़ी देर में लेते हैं, put it back. Okay, इसको, if all the nodes are connected in a graph, then this is known as a clique. Then there are contiguity based cluster. I have why this diagram is looking like this. Okay. Contiguity based clusters are basically those clusters where one object is more closer to certain set of objects as compared to others. So it's basically how, so for example, this is one cluster because these objects are closer, then there is some break, and then these objects form another group. So it is based on how continuously how data is represented. Then density based clusters, so more dense regions and are form one cluster, sparser regions form another clusters. So clusters can be regular or intertwined, but there are noise and outliers that could be present in density based cluster. So we will be studying one density based algorithm, which is DB-scan also. We will be studying that to understand how density based clusters. So density means that at what particular range, in what particular range or at location a lot of points are lying. And so you will club based on density. Then conceptual or shared property means that set of objects that share some property. That property again you would need to define, and they can include more type of clusters, and they are basically conceptual. You can't really define it, like here you were able to define in terms of nodes, here you were able to define in terms of means, but here you will have to think of some other pattern or property depending on your data set. So you can't really fix that property, and it totally depends on your problem at hand. So you will have to define your own metric to identify such clusters. So it basically helps you do pattern recognition, this shared property. So the next topic is k-means clustering, which I will be covering on Wednesday. On Thursday, I will give you an assignment of association rule mining. If you have any questions now, you can ask me. Any questions? So this is okay. There is some new message. No, ma'am. Okay. Yes, Prakriti outliers. Right. So this also is there. This particular presentation is also there on my YouTube channel if you want to see it. But this is just the basic. We have three algorithms: k-means, DB-scan, and I think one is hierarchical clustering. So you can. So there are only three algorithms left, and then we will be done with the syllabus. We will move ahead with revisions after that. And in association rule mining, there's some small section which is for complexity that I have left. So for now, I'm leaving it to you for self-study. Maybe when we have more time afterwards, then I can discuss it. So if you don't have questions, you can leave. If you have questions, you can stay.